In 2002, we saw the release of The Lord of the Rings The Two Towers game, which covers the events of the Fellowship of the Ring and the events of the Two Towers. And though I absolutely adore this game and will probably make a video about it in the future, 1 year later we saw the release of The Lord of the Rings The Return of the King game, an absolute masterpiece that in my opinion is the greatest movie tie-in game of all time. So in this video, guys, we're going to be taking a look at the Lord of the Rings The Return of the King game and giving you my opinion on why I think it's the best movie tie-in game ever made. And if you find yourself liking the video, be sure to drop a like on it and maybe even consider subscribing. But guys, let's dive into the video. The Lord of the Rings The Return of the King is a fixed camera hack and slash action game that sees you hacking, slashing, hopping, shooting, dying, and being overrun throughout the greatest set pieces that the films it's based on has to offer, playing as every member of the Fellowship, except Boromir, he died. The game cleverly picks up right where the previous game, The Two Towers, lets off, allowing players to finally play as Gandalf, who was never playable in the prior game, just as he arrives at the end of the Battle of Helm's Deep. And I just want to take a second to mention how it's a nice touch that the Uruk-hai seen at the Battle of Helm's Deep and the Return of the King game share the same uniformity as the Uruk-hai at the Battle of Helm's Deep in the Two Towers film, instead of the hodgepodge of Uruk-hai, trolls, and goblins that we see at this same battle in the Two Towers game. And this opening mission, which by the way I have to say still looks gorgeous for a game that came out in 2003, serves as the perfect playground to learn the basics of the game's combat. Speed attacks quickly dispatch enemies, while heavy attacks shatter shielded foes as you go through what feels like a roller coaster tour of the Battle of Helm's Deep. But I do find it kind of funny that even though the battle is clearly taking place outside the walls, the orcs are still like, we're blowing up this bitch anyway. Until that is, you blow them up yourself, which leads me to the game-to-film transitions that bookend each mission. I used to love these transitions when I was young, and they still do a good job today of showing that the film and the game are connected. It also helps that so many of the original actors from the films voice their characters here in the game to further connect the two mediums.
I'm on a summer's day in the headquarters in England of EA, where I've been adding my voice to the game, which people can now play.
Though interestingly, certain actors who voiced their characters in the Two Towers game did not return for the Return of the King game. Viggo Mortensen, for example, who delivered his lines with a touch of calm in the previous game,
"We have had no word from Moria in many years,"
has been replaced with someone whose only direction was to never stop shouting his lines.
"Who enters my domain?
One who would hold you to your own. We must get beyond this outer gate. This way, with haste! Easterling! Orcs! Get them all!
I mean, the dude's even yelling in cutscenes that he's not even in.
We must get out of here!
And at the end of each mission, you have the opportunity to spend the experience points and levels that you've earned in the mission to acquire new power-ups and combos, so that you can buy Rising Attack for the entire Fellowship, or be a selfish dick and just get it for Gandalf. But after the Battle of Helm's Deep, the game lets you choose one of 3 different mission routes that all intersect at the game's finale. The Path of the King, for example, follows Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli as I just farm the Southern Gate mission because of how much I hate the Paths of the Dead. Like, I literally hop through the entire mission because it's faster than walking through it. So yeah, I don't like the Paths of the Dead. Which in turn leads to the epic Battle of Pelennor Fields, which is pretty cool, by the way, because you get to fight both Easterlings and Orcs at the same time, and blowing up the Mumakil still looks pretty impressive. Another neat detail about the Return of the King game is that the Witch King's design in the game is actually different than what we see in the movie. The actual design of the Witch King's helmet and mace from the Return of the King game is actually that of an illustration done by John Howe, which was originally going to be used for the Witch King in the Return of the King film, until they decided it looked a little bit too much like the helmet used by Sauron in the prologue, so they changed it to the one that we actually saw on screen. But I guess the decision to change the helmet and mace was made too late for them to change it in the game, which I always thought was a pretty neat detail. The Path of the King culminates in the desperate bide for time at the hopeless Battle of the Black Gate, which is where I failed the most in every one of my playthroughs, but is one of the best missions in the game. The Path of the Wizard, on the other hand, sees you playing as Gandalf as you travel the road to Isengard, helping the Ents destroy the remnants of the Uruk-hai army fleeing Helm's Deep, and ultimately the destruction of Isengard itself. God, I love blowing up those towers. Which ultimately leads to the defense of Minas Tirith. These missions are super fun to explore and see the detail, but oh shit, I'm getting overrun again. The act of knocking back the endless ladders and stopping the behemoth siege towers as orcs constantly crash against the defenders always gets my heart pumping. While defending the Shattered Gate in the next mission as hordes pour into the city as you try to evacuate civilians is a completely different kind of tension. And finally, we have the Path of the Hobbits, which sees you playing as Sam, doing your very best to keep Frodo from doing anything stupid.
Get down!
The fuck you doing, homie? Starting with a pretty cool mission, escaping from Osgiliath and Shelob's Tunnel, which isn't my favorite mission, but it's still not as bad as this turd of a level. But either way, Sam fighting through the Tower of Cirith Ungol is one of my favorite missions in the entire game, so going through Shelob's Tunnel, not so bad. And it's only after you complete these 3 paths to the fullest that you unlock the Crack of Doom mission, where you play as Frodo for the first time and fight a junky golem in a boss fight and ultimately destroy the One Ring. Though I do gotta say, I find it funny just how different Frodo's motivations are in the game versus his motivations in the movie.
I had a few doubts about that. We were worried about how that was going to look. It did feel as if Frodo was killing Smeagol and Gollum, as if it was an act of murder.
Whereas in the game...
And his name is John C.
And that pretty much brings us to the end of the game, but not the end of the fun, because once you actually beat the game, you unlock some new features.
Well done, you finished the game. But not really. You've just unlocked all these other characters. One of them being me, Pippin.
So as Billy just said, once you beat the game, you actually unlock the rest of the members of the Fellowship, like Merry and Pippin and Faramir. But not Boromir. He's still dead. Which is actually pretty cool, because once you beat the game, you actually get to replay any of the missions with characters that weren't actually there. So maybe escort Frodo through Osgiliath with Legolas, or see how Samwise Gamgee does at the defense of Minas Tirith. I'm sure that'll go well. The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King is a game that I replayed to death when I was young, and returning to it for this review has been an absolute joy. So if you're thinking about going in for the first time yourself, or returning like myself, let me give you a couple tips. When staring down the barrel of an angry troll, don't fight it like a dummy, throw a spear at it. And when in doubt, hop your way out. Except for when there's falling rocks, you will need to run. Well guys, you made it to the end. Thank you for watching this video review of The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King game, and as you can probably tell by this video, I absolutely adore this game, and as I've said before, it's my favorite movie tie-in game of all time. So if you haven't played this game, find a way to play it. It does suck that, you know, it's never been released digitally, so you can't just go and buy it on Steam, but they need to release it, or even remaster it. That'd be even better. But if you haven't played this game, guys, absolutely give it a try. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. But guys, this video was an absolute blast to make, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it for you. This was just a passion project that I've been working on for quite a while, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. But guys, that's all I have for this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to drop a like on the video, because it helps the video reach new fans, and as I always say, that's always a good thing. And I also make new videos like the one you're watching right now every single week, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future content, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.